For Friedenbach, Coalition on Homelessness. And I wasn't, good evening, commissioners and chief and staff and commanders. I wasn't planning on speaking this time as I did not last time and letting other people have a chance to speak, but I felt compelled to, based on the presentation at the beginning, to try to clarify or challenge some of the things that were said. As you know, I've been a member of the C.I.T. working group, working and trying to get the crisis intervention team fully implemented with Commander Korea, and there is a lot of work in front of us to fully implement a crisis intervention team. There's been the trainings that have taken place, 118 out of the 450 that are supposed to be trained by now. But there's supposed to be a full 20-hour training for all 1,800 of the police officers on communication skills, which has not taken place. The 911 protocol, the developments of the team itself, the supervision of the team, the plan on what you do when you get to the scene, none of that has happened, nor the reviews after the incidents take place. None of that stuff, which is, I think, 54 or so, according to the commander, different items that are supposed to take place. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not only that the use of tasers is being proposed by the C.I.T. team members, but because in the earlier presentation, the chief, you were referring back to Memphis. And that there had been 55 officer-involved shootings in 2012. I was surprised to hear that, and I did a quick look on the guy sitting next to me's phone. And according to ABC, there was 12 officer-involved shootings in 2012, and we emailed that story to you.
If I could, Sergeant Karen Rudolph, not ABC, of the Memphis Police Department, with her cell phone here, I can give you the afterwards. Sergeant Rudolph of Memphis PD is where I got my number.
Okay, so the big difference is that, from what I understand, the Memphis model is that what we had been talking about in terms of fatalities and them being successful in eliminating fatalities up until the last year, where I believe there was one that was officer-involved shooting of someone who was in psychiatric crises. It's when someone who is in psychiatric crises that the C.I.T. team is sent. And those are the people who are trained that are, you know, a more elite unit that are using the de-escalation techniques. And so it doesn't really work to talk about all officer-involved shootings across the board.
Even if your number was correct and they had 12, that would be twice as many as the San Francisco.
But we're specifically talking about people in psychiatric crises and eliminating officer-involved shootings with people who are in psychiatric crises.
To eliminate officer-involved shootings, period.
I understand that, but the proposal on the table is to introduce tasers to crisis intervention team members. And if the crisis intervention team gets implemented the way the resolution laid out unanimously by the commission, it's going to be an actual team. And you have 1 in 3 police calls that are people in psychiatric crises, according to 911 data in San Francisco.
What would be that?
The C.I.T. team, that is, if the actual team, as the resolution was laid out, is developed, when someone's in psychiatric crises, members of the C.I.T. team would be sent out.
C.I.T. training, because we're trying to train as many as the police officers. We don't want them in teams because one might not be available.
Okay, so
most trained so that you get somebody, and that's been successful for us in the last almost 2 years.
And I think that's our fundamental
yes.
difference. And that is really not consistent with the resolution that was passed by the commission.
That's right.
The supporting and creating the C.I.T., which is supposed to be a team. It's supposed to be not just training, it goes way beyond training. And it's an elite group of people who are responding to people in psychiatric crises. That was where the Memphis had success. The Memphis model had success. So it was not...
It shot at least twice as many people as we had last year.
Okay. I understand your point. I totally get it. And I would love to, across the board, reduce officer-involved shooting. I believe the proposal is for C.I.T. officers to use tasers, which is what I'm referring to. And so, specifically...
in teams.
What has been talked about frequently, in addition, and this is an additional point, is that tasers would be used instead of guns. The question constantly comes up that wouldn't you rather have officers using a taser than a gun? And I think what has kind of evolved through this hearing process that has kind of changed is that now we're talking about tasers as being a step down and not actually replacing guns in those specific situations that you would use guns. And then from our perspective, that ends up being an increased use of force because you're using something that's potentially fatal in a situation that you would not be using guns. And so that for us is a distinct problem as well. I also want to clarify the UCSF study, and there was a comment by Commander Ali.
Last point.
A point by Commander Ali that the UCSF study, originally the UCSF study was referred to in this one slide that mentioned the situations in which tasers could be implemented, the different things that should be included in the DGO, and that you had gone through that and incorporated into the DGO. What the Dr. Sang had said very unequivocally is that he did not support tasers, and that the study did not support the use of tasers, and he talked about all these different data that increase fatalities, increase shootings, etc., that had happened as a result of the introduction of tasers in every single city, a major city that he looked at where tasers are introduced in that first year. And so I just wanted to point that out because I had heard Commander Ali reference the study and say that it had suggested that tasers could be used properly inside departments, and so that was a kind of shift of what the findings actually were. Thank you.
Thank you.